If you want to see how I made this cornflake pork chop with mashed potato and mint sauce, keep on watching. So I've already got my potatoes on a baking tray here, and I've already gone through and done the rest, but all you need to do is get a fork and just poke some holes all over the potato, just like so. It's just so nothing's going to explode in the oven once we stick them in there. So once you got that done, you're just going to arrange them out so they're all, you know, not all bunched up together. And we're going to stick this into a 200-degree preheated oven without the fan. And on my oven, I'm going to put it around nice and low so it's away from the top element, so we don't get too much color on the potatoes. So we'll stick these in there for about 1 hour or so. We'll come back in about 30-40 minutes there and check on them just to see where they're at. So my potatoes have been in the oven for about 40 minutes now. And I just pulled them out and tested them. So the knife goes through, super easy. So these are ready. Now I'm just gonna split them in half and let them vent out for just a little bit. I'm just gonna grab a knife and a pair of tongs, and I'm just gonna cut them all in half. In the recipe it says to push it through a drum sieve, but I don't have one of those, but I do have this metal sieve here that should stand up to the pressure of me pushing into it. So I've just got a pot sat underneath that I'm gonna be pressing them into. So I'm gonna use a ladle because so I can get in there and give it a good push. I think that'll be the best tool for the job on my little setup here. So make sure you're getting all the flesh of the potatoes in, and any of the skins there, we'll just take them out and we'll throw them in the trash. So I'm going to go through, get all these pushed through to the sieve, and then we'll come back. That took a little longer than I thought it was going to. And by the way, the ladle was a terrible thing to use. The best thing was this little plastic scraper I got here. That worked absolutely perfectly. Now, because that took longer than what I thought it was going to do, my potatoes are completely cold. The next step is we're going to have to add all this butter and mix it into the potatoes. And I'm pretty sure I'm going to have to do this over a low heat on the stove. So we're going to head over there. So the recipe says to add the butter to the potato and mix in till it splits. Now I'm not quite sure what this actually means, but we're going to slowly add the butter in like so. And then we're going to mix. I'm going to keep doing this until all the butter's added. And then we'll see if it's split or not. So yeah, it didn't take very long. Now, I should also mention that I have my stovetop here on the lowest setting it can go. I don't want this too hot at the moment. But I'm just adding the last of the butter in now. And I'm not sure if you can see it on the camera, but the mixture is actually splitting. The reason why I didn't understand it was because I've never added this much butter to mashed potato before, or potato puree, I should say. I'm just gonna wait until this last little bit's melted, and then I'm gonna add some milk, some cold milk, so it's just enough to bring it back together so it's a nice smooth puree, not this broken split thing that we have here, which we just needed to do. So, all right, all my butter's there melted in. Now I've got some milk. Now I'm not gonna add all of the milk at once, I'm just gonna add a little bit at a time. That was probably about half. Then we'll mix this in, and we'll see if it brings it back together into a nice, smooth, silky puree. It looks like it needs a little bit more milk. I'm gonna go ahead and add the rest of the milk. Looks like it should be enough milk. The puree looks like it's all come together. I haven't added any seasoning to this, so I know for a fact it's gonna need some. So we'll go ahead and add a little bit of salt. We'll give that a mix in, and we're gonna give that a taste. So I'm just gonna add a touch more milk, and then we'll mix that in. And once that's all combined, the seasoning's where I want it. So I'll give it another little taste. That is absolutely perfect. Nice, silky smooth. So we're going to cover this up with a lid. And we're going to set it aside in a warm place until we're ready to eat it. Okay, so here we are. The reason why this challenge was actually made. The cornflakes. I've already got them weighed out here. Now we're just going to get them all placed into this bag here. We'll try and do this without spilling it all over the place. Of course, they're going all over the place, but that's all right. As always, all the correct amounts of ingredients are going to be on the website, traditionalbutnot.com. Now we're just going to get these bundled up, make sure it don't escape anywhere. And because my bag's not too thick, we're just going to lightly pound these out with our meat mallet here. All right, once you've got them all broken down, we'll put them back into a bowl. And we'll just make sure any big chunks are broken up. You could use a food processor for this, but I think the food processor would break it down too much, in my opinion. A little bit of chunk in there is still good, so we'll just push this off to the side there for a bit while we get the other two breading ingredients ready. I've just about got my breading station set up. So just before I start breading, I'm just gonna hit the pork here with some salt, and we'll go on with some fresh pepper. Now I did have to trim a little bit of the excess fat off of these pork chops here, just a little bit. So this side gets the same treatment. To the cornflakes, I'm gonna add grana padano. Now in the recipe, they state to use Parmesan. Now, grana padano is not Parmesan. It is very close in taste and texture, and it's a lot cheaper. So that's what I usually use. And I'm gonna give that a good sprinkle with salt. Also go in with some pepper, and we'll just get that mixed through. With the eggs, I've got my eggs beaten up here, and as you can see, they're very well beaten. Now when you're doing a breading station like this, you want your eggs, even if you had to add like a touch of water in here just to get them even more thinner, you want them super thin and very well beaten, just like that. And on my third plate here, I just got some plain all-purpose flour. That hasn't been seasoned though, we just leave that plain. So, quite easily, grab a chop, we bung it in the flour, get it all nicely coated and everywhere, and we wriggle off the excess into the egg. I like to use the old wet hand, dry hand method. It works very well when you're doing, breading multiple things. So we'll get that nicely coated, let all the excess drip off. Now when I like to bread stuff, I like to bank, have a little thin layer on one side, and I like to bank most of it onto the other side. And you can even grab a handful, so when you place your chop in, you can go straight down on top with some of your coating, and that way, this hand actually stays dry without getting all gummed up. Now you want to get this well coated, so I like to push it in very well. Like that, and we'll pick it up, we'll get it flipped over, we'll pile it on top again, and we'll give it another good press. Make sure we get a nice coating on here. But if you do it right the first time, you won't have to worry about double coating or any of that funky business. Because, as you see, this is nicely coated and no need for a double coat. So, we'll set that back on the board, and then we'll crack on with the other ones. Once you got the last one breaded, we'll just let them hang out on the board there for about 5 minutes until we clean this down, and then we'll meet over at the stove. Okay, so in my pan here, I've got a mixture of vegetable oil and olive oil. I've never really used olive oil to fry anything before, but anyway, first time for everything. I'm gonna grab the meat, and working in batches, in my case 2 at a time, we'll get these in there, and we're just gonna fry them off for about 3 minutes or so on each side to get a nice golden color, and then we'll finish them off in the oven. I already flipped the back one here, and I'm just gonna flip this one over. So you don't have to worry about them cooking all the way through just yet. All we're doing is looking for some nice color like this. We'll let the other side get a bit of color, and then we'll come back. So once your pork's got some nice color on both sides, we're gonna remove it onto a tray with a rack, just like that. And then we'll continue on with the other 2 pieces. Once you've got good color on both sides of your other pieces, we'll gently get these out. We'll the excess strip off. We'll get these into the same pan with the rack. Now these are gonna go into the preheated oven. That's at 200 degrees until the thickest parts of the chop reaches around 71 to 72 degrees. Okay, for the mint and chili sauce, I've already got my ingredients prepped. We just need to add them to a bowl and mix them all together. So in goes the shallot. I've got the mint and basil leaves already chopped up here. Got some chilies and what seems like a lot of brown sugar, but there can never be too much brown sugar. And the white wine vinegar. Once we get all this mixed in and the sugar dissolved, we'll taste for seasoning. Okay, so I've got it all mixed in. All the sugar's dissolved. I gave it a taste, and it is very sweet. Obviously, there's a lot of sugar in there, and then it has a nice, bright, punchy acidity from the white wine vinegar. But for me, I'm just going to add a couple of little pinches of salt, just because I think it needs it. It is a little bit flat. Then we'll get that mixed in, and then we'll taste it again. We'll adjust if we need, and when you got it where you want it, you set it aside until you're ready to use it. Once your pork's finished cooking in the oven, they've reached the temperature, you want to take them out. Now, I did make a slight mistake. And I didn't have the fan on in my oven, which they have softened up a little bit. But my hope is that as they rest and cool on this rack, that they will crispen back up. We'll give it about 5 minutes to cool down, and then we'll come back. So a few years ago, I was doing my usual thing and flicking through online, and I found some people coating things and frying them with cornflakes. And I've never tried it, but I've always wanted to. So this is another main reason why I picked this dish this week. Now, if I could do it again, when you put it in the oven, have your fan going, because that'll keep it a little more crispier. Mine did get a little less crispy. It did soften up a touch because I didn't have the fan going. But after I let it sit for just a little bit while it rested, it has firmed back up and got a little more crispier. Time to get a little bit of everything on the fork. Oh wow. I understand why there's so much sugar and it's just vinegar in this little sauce here. Because you have like the deep fried fattiness and the fatty pork chop, then you have a lot of butter in your mashed potato, and then you pour this little number over the top. It just absolutely cuts through all of it and makes it taste absolutely amazing. I have to give it another little taste just to make sure the first one was right. I'm definitely going to be trying coating different proteins or anything really with this cornflake mixture again, because if this pork chop's anything to go by, it might just beat out panko. Oh yeah, that's a 10 out of 10 dish.